When we talk about self-care, many people immediately picture scented candles, calming teas, perfectly organized routines, and a kind of flawless wellness lifestyle. At first glance, all of this really does look healthy, but the truth is that not everything that looks like self-care actually takes care of us. Some behaviors, even though they seem positive, can quietly create more stress, pressure, and frustration, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. If you've ever felt like you were somehow failing at taking care of yourself, stay with us. This conversation may change how you see self-care in your daily life. Before we continue, if this kind of content resonates with you, consider leaving a like, subscribing to the Well State channel, and turning on the notification bell. That helps us reach more people and make sure you don't miss future videos about well-being, mental health, and quality of life. One of the most common mistakes in self-care is turning it into a rigid obligation. People create long lists of habits they feel they must follow: waking up early, meditating, exercising, eating perfectly, keeping everything organized, journaling, practicing gratitude. On paper, it sounds ideal. In real life, it often becomes a constant source of pressure. When one of these habits doesn't happen, guilt appears, along with the feeling of having failed at self-care itself. What was supposed to support you starts demanding more from you, and care that demands does not heal, it exhausts. Another frequent mistake is using self-care as compensation instead of prevention. Many people push themselves far beyond their limits for days or weeks, ignoring clear signs of physical and emotional fatigue, and then try to fix everything with a single moment of rest, as if a long shower or a free weekend could repair an entire routine of overload. This creates a harmful cycle: overwork, collapse, temporary relief, and then overwork again. Self-care is not a repair job, it's ongoing maintenance. It's also very common to confuse self-care with productivity in disguise. Activities that should feel restorative start being measured by performance. Was the meditation deep enough? Was the workout intense enough? Was the rest truly productive? Even relaxation turns into a task to optimize. This mindset keeps the nervous system on constant alert, preventing real mental and emotional rest. Another subtle but damaging mistake is following ready-made formulas while ignoring your own reality. What works for someone else may not work for you, and that's completely fine. Some people feel energized waking up early, others don't. Some relax with intense physical activity, others need quiet and stillness. When we try to force our lives into an idealized self-care model, often shaped by social media or generic advice, we disconnect from our real needs. True self-care begins with self-listening. There's also the illusion of perfect balance. The idea that all areas of life must be balanced at all times is simply unrealistic. There are phases when work requires more energy, others when family needs come first, and others when the main goal is simply emotional survival. When we don't accept these natural fluctuations, we end up judging ourselves for not handling everything. Real self-care includes accepting temporary imbalance without guilt. Avoiding difficult emotions is another common trap. Sometimes people try to care for themselves only by staying busy, distracted, or entertained, avoiding contact with uncomfortable feelings. Distraction can help in certain moments, but when it becomes the only strategy, emotions accumulate. Feelings don't disappear when ignored, they wait for space to emerge. Self-care also means allowing yourself to feel, acknowledging emotional limits, and seeking support when needed. Another misunderstanding is believing that self-care means isolation. There are moments when solitude is necessary, yes, but constant withdrawal can intensify feelings of loneliness and disconnection. Healthy relationships are part of emotional care. Asking for help, talking openly, and sharing vulnerability are also valid forms of self-care. Comparison is another hidden source of stress. Watching how others seem to take care of themselves can lead to constant self-evaluation and the feeling of never being enough. Self-care is not a competition. It happens at your pace, with your resources, and within your reality. When self-care becomes another source of pressure, something needs to be adjusted. Real care is not perfect, consistent, or aesthetic. It's functional, human, and flexible. It adapts to good days and especially to difficult ones. Understanding this alone can significantly reduce the stress many people feel when trying to do self-care the right way. Another very common mistake is believing that self-care must involve big changes or large amounts of free time. This idea causes many people to give up before they even start because they feel they can't maintain an elaborate routine. In reality, the most effective self-care is often simple and adaptable. Sleeping a little better when possible, taking short breaks, eating somewhat regularly, breathing more intentionally during stressful moments. Small actions repeated over time have far more impact than ambitious plans that can't be sustained. It's also important to talk about neglecting basic self-care while focusing only on emotional or spiritual practices. Sometimes people look for deep explanations for discomfort that is actually rooted in lack of sleep, poor nutrition, or physical exhaustion. Body and mind are not separate systems. Ignoring basic needs while demanding emotional balance is another quiet form of overload. Another behavior that seems healthy but increases stress is excessive self-monitoring. Constantly analyzing how you feel, whether you're improving, whether you're emotionally evolving, can heighten anxiety. Emotional ups and downs do not mean failure or regression. They are part of being human. Self-care also means trusting that not everything needs to be analyzed all the time. There's also the mistake of using self-care as an excuse to avoid important responsibilities or necessary conversations. Caring for yourself doesn't mean avoiding discomfort at all costs. Sometimes real care involves facing difficult situations, setting firm boundaries, or making decisions that are uncomfortable in the short term but relieving in the long term. Confusing self-care with avoidance can prolong problems and increase emotional stress. Another important point is the belief that self-care should always feel good immediately. That's not always true. Some forms of care are uncomfortable at first, like starting therapy, changing harmful habits, or facing recurring emotional patterns. The benefits may come later, not instantly. When we only seek immediate comfort, we risk abandoning important forms of care that don't offer quick relief. It's also a mistake to believe that self-care replaces professional help when it's needed. Caring for yourself is essential, but it doesn't solve everything on its own. When emotional suffering is intense, persistent, or limiting, seeking psychological or psychiatric support is not weakness, it's responsibility toward yourself. Self-care is not self-isolation, it's knowing when to walk with support. Another often overlooked aspect is self-care disconnected from personal values. Sometimes people adopt practices that are considered healthy but don't align with who they truly are. This creates a sense of artificiality, as if they're playing a role. Genuine care respects who you are, not who you think you should be. It aligns with your values, your beliefs, and your current stage of life. When we begin to recognize these mistakes, self-care becomes lighter and more supportive. It stops being a burden and starts becoming a resource. It's not about doing everything right, it's about doing what actually helps. It's not about perfect consistency, but about presence and adaptation. It's not about eliminating stress from life, but about building the internal and external resources to deal with it more gently. If this content was helpful to you, leave a like, subscribe to the WellState channel, and turn on the notification bell so you can continue receiving reflections and information that support a healthier relationship with yourself. Thank you for being here, for dedicating this time to your well-being, and for walking with us on this more conscious, human, and realistic self-care journey.